Hey, my name is Romy. Welcome if you're new here and welcome back if you've been here before. I make all types of diamond painting videos on my channel and this is one of them. I thought I'd show you the difference between a hand-rendered piece, a hybrid rendered piece, and a computer rendered piece because I've had a few questions of what I prefer, what the difference is, and all that kind of stuff. So here we are. I picked one from each category that I recently worked on or I am still working on. And the first one we're going to be looking at is a piece from Diamond Art Club. Diamond Art Club is, in my opinion, the best known and also the best, I know, controversial statement, in hand rendering pieces. Yeah, and companies that hand render their artwork pieces. So obviously there are a lot more companies out there who hand render nowadays. I would say most of the companies do at least a little bit of hand rendering nowadays. For example, Jaded Gems Shop or Aloha, Dreamer Designs, and I'm forgetting a few unavoidably. So, but I chose to show you a piece from Diamond Art Club since, as I said, it is the prime example of a company that hand renders all of their pieces. This one is called Treasure Quest by Randall Spangler, and obviously, as I said, from Diamond Art Club. And this is a fully hand rendered piece. Hand rendering means that they have a team of artists who go over every little pixel of this whole painting and compare it to the actual artwork and decide which color it needs to be for the details and yeah, for the details and all that kind of stuff to come out the best. It's really a form of art to hand render actual artwork. It's not easy. I wouldn't want to do it. It's very meticulous work. It's a long process, but that's also why it gives, in my opinion, such a great result. I don't think I have to tell you. I think that's pretty clear that hand-rendered diamond paintings are my favorite, but that isn't to say that there is definitely a place for hybrid rendering or computer rendering, and a lot of people actually prefer the other types of rendering. So it's really, yeah, what you prefer in your diamond painting whilst you're working on it, but also in the end result of your diamond painting. Because in some cases, I also do prefer the diamond painting to be computer rendered to have the best result in the end. Some artwork just lends itself way better to be computer rendered than hand rendered. But when I'm diamond painting, I would 100% of the time pick a hand rendered piece over a computer rendered piece just because of the confetti level. When you have a computer rendered piece, it just has so much unnecessary confetti, in my opinion at least. Mainly in the background usually, and when there's hair that needs to be painted, it's just one confetti hell for me. And I don't like paintings that have too much confetti. It's so slow and it is such meticulous work. It's a lot of single placing, and that's not to say that in hand rendered pieces there can't be confetti, because over there in those pearls and all that kind of stuff, that was a lot of confetti. In the dragon scales there's obviously also going to be confetti, but it is intentional confetti. So from now on I'm going to try to keep my personal opinions aside for this video, but I'm going to zoom you in a little bit closer to show you what I mean with intentional confetti, and yeah, just how a computer and hand rendered piece looks up close. This is the prime example for me of why hand rendering is more crisp and clear. For example, you see the shading in this book has 3 colors of blue, but it's 3 clear lines of shading. When this would have been computer rendered, it would have been one confetti mess, because usually when it's computer rendered and it's supposed to have shading, they sprinkle all the colors throughout each other. I have an example of that for the next painting. So don't worry, I'll show you what I mean exactly. I'm sorry, by the way, if you can hear my kids in the background. They're playing downstairs. But also, letters are also a confetti mess in computer rendering, and they're sometimes not even, yeah, not even easy or able to make out what it's supposed to say at all. So over here you just have the drills in the exact place where they should be so that the text is really clear. And this is what I meant by intentional confetti. You can see this piece is confetti heavy, but it's still, yeah, intentional. They thought about every drill where it needs to go to give the best result at the end, and that is just, yeah, for this artwork, it's really how it's supposed to be. I know I can't say that too loud, but in my opinion, that is what it's supposed to be. And yeah, it's just, it looks so good. It's crisp, it's clear. It's for Randall Spangler's artwork, and also, for example, Hannah Lynn's Diamond Art Club is just, has just the perfect rendering style, in my opinion. Another thing I wanted to show you with a piece that is fully hand rendered is that the placement of the special drills is also really intentional. And that is one of the most important things in my mind when it comes to computer rendering as opposed to hand rendering. When it's hand rendered, you can see over here, for example, in this ball, all this white is AB, and they put a lot of ABs in these gemstones on the cup, these gemstones on this necklace. Also, there's always going to be specials in the main features of the painting, which in this case is the dragons, obviously, because it's a Randall Spangler piece. But also over here in the candle, in the flame, you can see specials. Over here are specials. This candle itself is chock full of white ABs, and that is really important in my opinion, that the specials are rendered with care and with eye to detail, and in places in the canvas that are supposed to be highlighted and not in weird places that are just chosen by a computer. So that's another plus, in my opinion, with a hand rendered piece. So moving on to the next painting, that is a hybrid render. This is a good example of a hybrid rendered piece. This is one from Carrot Art. This is called Little Indian Girl. It's by Maud Lemoine. And as I understand it, Carrot Art does all their rendering this style. So it is computer rendered in the first place, which are all diamond paintings. And this is touched up by hand, which means not every little detail is hand rendered, but the key features, for example, faces, are usually touched up by hand quite a bit to make them look the best that they can, to make the rendering make sense, to eliminate unnecessary confetti and that kind of stuff. And also, I can imagine they touched up quite a bit in that part and in the flower in her headband, in the flowers at the bottom. But I will show you when we zoom in that there's also parts in this painting that I'm convinced haven't been touched by hand, or at least not much, because there is a lot of confetti. This is an example of an artwork that really lends itself to this type of rendering, in my opinion. I will pop a picture up of the original on screen right now, but this wouldn't, I think, look as good if it were hand rendered fully like they do at Diamond Art Club, for example, just because there is a sort of flowiness in the painting that is only able to translate to diamond painting when it is not fully hand rendered, I think, at least. So I will zoom you in now to show you what I mean by the pieces that are definitely touched up by hand and by the pieces that are definitely, I wouldn't say definitely, that are probably not touched up by hand. So, as I said, her face, I am convinced, is touched up by hand pretty heavily. You can see the, what do you call that? The fading of the colors. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors in her face that are fading pretty gradually and with not too much confetti, and that is definitely touched up by hand. I think her eyes and her eyebrows will be touched up by hand, even though there's still quite a bit of confetti in there. I'm sorry, please focus. There's still quite a bit of confetti in there, but they're still pretty clear. Her eyebrow, you would definitely not see it like this if it were fully hand rendered, because there are a lot of colors in this little tiny strip of eyebrow, but still it looks good. But for example, this earring is definitely touched up by hand. It's way too clear to be computer rendered, as is the same for this flower, which the outlines is pretty crisp and clear, so that is definitely hand rendered or at least touched up. But then you have this, which is the raccoon, which is definitely a lot of computer rendering still in there. But then when you look over here, which is usually the case with hybrid or computer rendered pieces, when you look at the background, especially when it has a fading of colors, you can see over here, this is a good example of computer rendered shading. It is like really just pure confetti. It's like alternating the colors just to get that fading effect, which is usually not the case when you get a hand rendered piece. So I'm convinced that the background in this is not, or at least minimally touched up by hand. And also you can see over here, I have not finished this section, as you can see, but there is quite a bit of confetti in these little butterflies, and that makes for a really nice end result, a really soft, flowy end result, which is the intention of this art piece and this background. But that means that, yeah, there is a lot of confetti in a little small area, and that is, I believe, not really touched up by hand. It's just how it's supposed to be when it is computer rendered. And also this little piece is also a prime example of a lot of confetti, and partly unnecessary in my opinion. But opinions obviously may differ for that, but this is my video. This is my opinion. So, but I think this is really the best rendering style for this type of image, and I can really appreciate this type of rendering in some pieces as well. Then I wanted to show you the placement of the specials in here, and that's another thing to notice when you're comparing a hand rendered piece to a computer rendered piece. In this piece, most of the specials are in the flowers, which I think they're supposed to be in. Also over here in this part, which looks nice, in her earrings, which looks nice, her headband, her, yeah, flower headpiece thingy. And also it's a lot of specials in the background. Let me show you up close. You can see over here there are a lot of ABs in that background, which looks nice but might not be the most obvious place to put that much specials, but still, not complaining. But then where you can see in the face, which I've talked before, I don't think there should be specials in faces, except for maybe in the eyes or the lips, but nowhere else. And you can see over here, this I think can be can be okay. There are a few white ABs in her nose, which also can make sense because of the lighting that would hit on the top of her nose. And there's also a few in her eyes, over there, over there, over there. But I don't think that's fully touched up by hand. Otherwise, I don't think you would put specials in the white of her eye. I think there it's more logical to put specials in the actual iris of the eyes, but I guess that's not possible when it is black. So I'm not complaining, but that is another example of how you can tell that this piece is not fully hand rendered. And yeah, let's move on to the computer rendered piece now. Over here we have a great example of a fully computer rendered piece. This one is from Diapop. It's called Wintertraum and it's from Venera. And Venera is, from my understanding, only licensed with companies that do computer rendered pieces. And I hate that so much because I love her artwork, but I don't like computer rendered pieces as much. So I would love a company to pick up her artwork and hand render it, or at least partly hand render it, or have it as a hybrid rendering. But her artwork is AI, or at least partly AI, so I'm not sure if any company is ever going to do that, because AI artwork is not usually hand rendered as much as actual physical artwork is, from my understanding again. So this is, as I said, fully computer rendered. You can tell that by the softness that it gives, and when compared to the actual original artwork, I'll pop a picture up of that on the screen as well. You can see that it actually resembles the actual artwork really nicely. That's why I'm also very happy with the outcome of this painting. I have a full post review of this one up on my channel also, by the way, as is for the Rendell Spangler piece. But when you get up close, you can clearly tell there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of confetti. This one has 90 colors, which also adds to the confetti heaviness of the piece. Usually hand-rendered pieces tend to not have as much colors, although Diamond Art Club has really been bringing up their color count, so that's not really the case always, but usually it is. But the most stark difference for me is my diamond painting experience. I don't like working on pieces with this much confetti nearly as much as I do on hand rendered or hybrid rendered pieces. It's just personal preference. Some people prefer confetti heavy pieces. I don't, as I've said a million times in this video already, so I'm sorry for that. But yeah, it's just the enjoyment really goes down for me when there's so much confetti and so much colors to work with. But as I said, I do really love the end result. Mainly this part of the painting, her face, her hair, and the fluffiness of her head really shines through the rendering in this way. But there's also downsides for me, which is mainly the placement of the specials when you have a computer rendered piece. The computer basically transfers just a few DMC colors and translates them to fully special drills. It doesn't care where that color is placed. It doesn't care if it's a logical place to place a special or an AB. It's just, it replaces that whole DMC with a special. And I don't like that, because that means that you get specials in weird places. For example, over here there are bright purple crystals in her face, over there, there, and over there. And I don't think they should be there. It looks good from afar, it doesn't look good up close. It looks off, it looks wrong. I will show you that in a little bit. But yeah, the placement of the specials, the intentional placement of the specials is really what defines diamond painting for me. And that really is a downside in computer rendered pieces. I'm going to zoom you in and show you what I mean. Over here you can clearly tell what I just meant. Here are the bright purple specials beneath her eyes. On her nose you can see her eyes are a confetti mess. up close anyway, but her face really looks silly this close. I know you're not supposed to view a diamond painting from this distance, and as you saw just before, it looks good when you look from a viewing distance, but that's not the only thing that is important in my opinion. It should also look kind of good when you get a little bit closer, and that's also the case. That's mainly the case with these type of specials that were also in her face. These crystals, and they really stand out in the piece. They're also a little bit over here where they stand out like a sore thumb in my opinion, over there as well, and over there in that Christmas tree as well. They just stand out. They need to be placed intentionally, otherwise I would prefer them not to be in there, honestly. That's less the case with fairy dust just because they don't stand out as much. For example, over here we have a green fairy dust which looks pretty good even though it's not intentionally placed. And also with ABs, they stand out a lot as well. So yeah, just they need to be placed intentionally. I just can't put it any other way. So over here you can also see the level of confetti that is in this painting. It's just one confetti. Yeah, hell. For me at least it is. That's why this painting took me super long to finish. I'm just panning you over a little bit of the rest of the painting so you can see the confetti heaviness of this piece, and especially hairs. They're, yeah, just one confetti thing. So yeah, but as I said, I really love the look of this when it's completed. And there's definitely a place for all three types of rendering. I think a company should consider the actual artwork when they decide in if they were to hand render, computer render, or hybrid render a piece. I know that's not how it works. That's not really feasible for a company to do that. But as a consumer, as a customer, you can definitely pick and choose your favorites and pick artwork that you think suits the style, the rendering style of the company you're buying from, to, yeah, to get it to your preference as much as you can. So that's, yeah, that's basically what I wanted to show you today, the difference, and you can make up your own mind what's your favorite. And please let me know in the comments what is your favorite, because as I said, there's lots of different opinions out there, and I can totally understand if you have a different one, and I would love to know that. So please comment down below what you think is the best rendering style. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to my channel, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.